And I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted and privileged to have a conversation with Matthew Chavira. Hey, Matt, welcome to the program.
Hello there, Fritz. Thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor.
Hey, let me introduce you to our audience. You are the CEO of Profits of AI, Global Director of Artificial Intelligence Partnerships, Head of Partnerships with Hanson Robotics, and also Global Director of Artificial Intelligence at the International Advertising Association. I probably left out some details as well, but thank you again for coming on the show. Now,
thank you so much.
Our regular guests have an academic background, a governance background, business background. This is the first time I'm actually talking to an AI kingmaker, as it were. Okay, sorry, bad joke, but I did notice that in your role, you actually promote people to come on stage, on the global stage. And
Precisely.
Yeah, so I want to talk about who is on that stage, and also what's your take on, are we, given your other roles you have, are we having a balanced discussion on a global level? And what is your capability to tweak that discussion if needed?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be very happy to cover all of that. Where do you think that we should begin? I think that for me, the best part is probably in connection with my role as Hanson Robotics at their head of partnerships, because that kind of led into everything else that I'm doing in the world.
Well, within the AI robotic space, Hanson is very much a household name. For those people who do not know Hanson, please explain what Hanson Robotics is.
Yeah, sure. Hanson Robotics is the creator of the world's most famous humanoid robot, Sophia. Sophia was announced and brought to the world at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas in 2016 on Valentine's Day, no less. So she is a product of love. And ever since then, it's been my goal and my job to bring Sophia into as many events globally as possible, to spark conversations surrounding what does artificial intelligence pose for the future, and how does specifically embodied AI influence that discussion around artificial intelligence and its impact in the world.
Okay, and how is that?
So Hanson Robotics is, our goal is to make the most lifelike robots imaginable. And in the process, imbuing them with AI, because when you embody artificial intelligence into a platform, a humanoid platform, specifically a humanoid platform, it in many ways represents the most compelling avenue by which to have conversations about artificial intelligence, to learn about it. Because as humans, we're innately drawn to things that look like us, that emotion, establishing that emotional connection is really important for what we do, and is at the core of it, actually.
Okay. Hey, Matt, there's so many questions I need to ask you, but one question I want to ask you, have you experienced a cultural difference when you present Sophia, or Sophia presents itself on stage in various societies around the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that shows up in many ways. There are definite differences. At this point, Sophia has been to almost 100 countries globally. I've been the primary person responsible for engaging with most of those countries. Universally, I will say that the response is well received. It's always really engaging to work with and meet a humanoid robot in person, right? There's also this concept called the uncanny valley, that the more similar you make something look like a human, the more convincing that it is, with the knowledge of it knowing that it's not, the more uncomfortable that makes people. And so we've experienced some of that, of course, in our travels. I wouldn't say it's localized around any one particular country or region, but there's always inevitably this dynamic within some people that they are just innately uncomfortable with meeting a humanoid robot.
Okay, I'll challenge you there, because to what
Yeah,
extent would you be maybe biased in a silo? Because what I'm thinking of, that was always what I alluding to, is I was thinking of a quote which James Cameron, the movie director, made just last year in
yeah,
People's Magazine, where he basically
yeah,
said, "Guys, I told you so. It's us against the machines." In the Terminator movie, I warned you. And I also believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger, who started in that movie, actually told his audience, "Look, hey, listen to James. He told you so. He warned us 40 years ago." So
yeah,
you see this um, negative connotation, negative association with a robot. It's us against the machine. And
yeah.
that is maybe how the general public, and maybe because of the general public, also policymakers view this, which is different, slightly different, or I don't know, hugely different when you go to a community where people interested in robots gather, all those around the globe.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that, I would say it is within our own best interest to be very careful about how pervasive we let science fiction dystopian narratives influence our perception of these technologies. Because in reality, you look at not just Hanson Robotics, but many of the manufacturers of humanoid robots, which it's really ramping up right now. There's a lot of companies coming into the scene. You look at the kinds of companies, the people who are behind them, they are done with some really incredible and brilliant minds behind them that are thinking very deeply about the ethical implications of how these technologies are going to show up in the world, and are taking great strides to ensure that this technology doesn't disrupt our society in too heavily a way. Jobs aren't lost. Like, there's a lot of considerations at play. But in my experience, these companies behind these robotics platforms are thinking about this daily.
And I also would assume the people behind those companies again, and that's where you come in with your,
Yeah.
you could say, prophets of AI.
Yeah.
Um, since you started promoting people to talk about AI, have you experienced and seen any changes in the topics? What the people are talking about?
Yeah, of course. I mean, to the obvious one, when generative AI kind of really showed up in a big way a couple years ago, that I don't think that anyone really had foreseen this how pervasive this technology was going to be, how impactful it was. So a majority of the conversations that I am aligning around with these conference organizers tend to be around and lead into this role of prophets of AI. So in the role of Hanson Robotics, working with Sophia, 100 countries around the world and growing, she gets invited to the most incredible stages, truly the top stages around the world. And through that experience, through that work in aligning with these conference organizers, I came to know not only them, the people who are actually producing these events, but also Sophia was working on engagements alongside other really notable, remarkable people within the AI and robotics industry, philosophical industry, uh, that that I came to be acquainted with through this work. So it was this natural progression that over time I came eventually I had such a great contact list. I said, I need to do something with this list. I have all these people in artificial intelligence working on some really remarkable things. I have all these conference organizers. Let's put them all under one roof and uh, create a company. And that is really how the foundation. So without Sophia, my company, Profits VR, would not exist. And from there, it's been my privilege to work directly with conference organizers to highlight the most shining examples of artificial intelligence. And like I said, generative AI is a really big topic of conversation right now. And and one of the most important things, or at least one of the most captivating things, I think, for me, is been working with them to highlight artificial intelligence in art, specifically in art, because there's a lot of really remarkable people doing some incredible things in AI's application to artistic use.
No, uh, I hear you talking a lot about, I'd say, the benefits, I'd say the positive side of AI,
Yeah.
which is great because I think I'm very much also on that part of the equation that I see the benefits. But
Yeah.
I've seen, because I'm also, we are talking now with the Institute for Accountability in the Digital Age. So I just want to ask you, what's your take, what's your experience with the ethical side, the accountability side, the guardrails side of this discussion?
Oh man, that's also something that is very popular for conference organizers. And indeed, I represent some truly remarkable people in this field. The ethical side of AI brings up a whole host of issues, really incredible. So one of them, I'll name a couple of examples actually really quickly. One individual whom I represent, his name is Walter O'Brien,
Mhm.
and his artificial intelligence, it's called SenGen, that's the name of the specific technology. But this technology is implemented in the United States drone fleet in many of their drones. So what are the ethical implications of imbuing artificial intelligence with the ability to scan targets and ultimately destroy them or take life or somewhere along the line that decision-making process it ultimately will lead to the taking of a human life, right? So humans, we have incredible technology, but we also go to war as well. And so how do we consider what are the ethical implications of artificial intelligence when making these kinds of decisions? And so this person, Walter O'Brien, who has a fascinating career history, talks quite a bit about that. Additionally, there's another individual named Nell Watson, and she's the chair for human AI interaction at IEEE, and she has a background in machine vision, so teaching machines how to see the world and make decisions based on what they see. She's heavily involved in many of the standards and certifications by which government entities have to adhere to when they ultimately start incorporating these technologies into
Yeah, I'm actually
how
glad
they're,
that you
yeah.
included that second example as well, because the first one sounded like you could say a market-driven regulation, self-regulation, which to a certain level is fine, but maybe the general audience, the general public, doesn't really
Mhm.
accept that in the
Yeah.
sort of world. Um, so, um, how do you, when you get a request, or when you're in contact, to what extent can you steer what discussion should be about, or is that already set?
Well, conference organizers are very careful on the themes that they're curating. They're always trying to highlight and capture what is the trends of that year, right? What has been the primary thing dominating global conversation around the world, because they want to get the best names within that industry to talk about and flesh out these ideas that have been pervasive in the global conversation, right? And so usually I'll work with them on what their set themes already are, and then trying to identify the best use cases of that. And which reminds me of your earlier question as to the demographics of the types of conferences that we work with. Most of them are public facing, not specialized. So large scale events with 10,000 plus attendees So this is typically not industry specific events. Those are usually, we do work with them, but those are usually much smaller, sub 2,000 people. When you start getting into the 10,000 plus, this is general audience level,
No, yeah,
right?
very much. Yeah.
Yeah, so the primary events in which we engage with, we just recently participated in one of Europe's largest events on a main stage activation, We Make Future, in Bologna, Italy, where I led a panel of all females that I represent titled Women in AI, where they talk about their work because some of them are doing some really remarkable things in artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And from a female perspective, which is really important in the AI field.
No, I just
I can
wonder.
talk about that.
No, I'm glad that they are on board as well, because they do give a different and very complementary perspective. But I wanted to come to a quote which I read somewhere, that you committed to promoting ethical AI practices and advocating for responsible innovation. Another quote, passionate view about societal impact of technology. So to me, that reads like, if you combine it with the role you have, is, ladies and gentlemen, when I do bring you in connection with a speaker, I want to make, to what extent do you allow yourself that influence in suggesting speakers, that those speakers, just like you, promote ethical AI practices?
Yeah, because it's really important to vet each speaker. There's no shortage of people within this industry, artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
who talk about AI. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people. But what are the most shining examples? Who are the people who are leading the most ambitious charges on AI, that are kind of at the bleeding edge of it in many cases? So these are individuals who are electorates of the EU AI Act, who are working on the fundamentals of artificial intelligence, people who govern nations that are known to be some of the most contain some of the most advanced digital infrastructures. These are the kinds of individuals whom we seek out and for representation.
Okay. Now, what's going to be, in your opinion, what's going to be beyond AI? What's going to be the next discussion?
Beyond AI, it's hard to imagine because AI is kind of here. It's pervasive, right? So it's really in everything.
Mhm.
So what is beyond AI? I think that there's a reason why you see these artificial intelligence industries leaning so heavily, and I mean very heavily, into the humanoid robot space. So while not separate from AI, it's kind of just a different way that it shows up. I think that the humanoid robotics industry specifically is going to start experiencing some tremendous growth in the next 5-10 years.
Okay.
Outside of AI, yeah, what are going to be the implications of a society that is increasingly more reliant on it? So
So,
it's hard to say.
yeah. So, in your perspective, we experience a global transition to a digital society. Is there enough awareness, I would say, with the non-digital community about what's happening? Do people really?
No, I don't think that there is enough awareness. I think that most people don't have any idea just how transformative artificial intelligence as a technology, when fully adopted, can be. For example, I represent the government chief data officer of Estonia.
Mhm.
And Estonia is the country that I mentioned just a bit ago, that they are known for having one of the most advanced digital infrastructures on the planet. And how does this actually show up? What does this look like for the citizen who lives in this country? Well, they experience freedom from bureaucracy, unlike anything we have ever seen, especially us in Western Europe and the United States. There are long, laborious processes behind getting access to government programs, or renewing your passport, or getting a driver's license, getting married even. All of these things usually intend to come with a large amount of bureaucracy and red tape and things you have to go to, which is your life, right? You're spending your life doing this. So through the adoption of artificial intelligence, the Estonian government has given all of that time back collectively. This is hundreds of millions of hours across the entire country that they've given back to their people, where they're now being productive in their society, contributing to it, right? Spending money. So it once people start to understand, like once you start adopting AI as a technology and further integrating it, it can really be truly transformative.
Okay. Now,
And I think that they're a great example.
Estonia might be the exception, but with
Mhm.
that knowledge, how's that knowledge on a global stage? Because
The knowledge on the global stage is it's difficult because not every country has the means or the actual physical infrastructure to start incorporating these technologies, right? So that is why I'm like, for example, I'm working with a large number of Pacific Island regions right now that are comprised of very small countries, like Tuvalu
Mhm.
and Fiji and a handful of others that honestly I have very little experience with in the past. But these countries, these island countries, they don't have the kinds of infrastructure by which to build on as effectively as we could say. So how do we do that? How do we bring that to them? And that's what we're actively working on right now.
Well, at least you have, and hopefully a growing database of people who can help make that transition happen.
Yep.
So last question, my time is running fast now.
Yeah.
What's the first recommend if somebody would come up to you, say, hey, I'm thinking of organizing an AI event, or I want to promote what AI can do. What's your advice?
My advice would be to see what is the most relevant, if you can, if it is possible, depending on the organization. If they are large enough to take some sort of survey from past attendees of what kind of topics that they would most like to hear about at this coming conference, then that would be my first suggestion. It's always important to deliver people the most engaging content that they want to hear, because when they want to hear it, they pay attention. When they pay attention, it influences their perspective, and then they take that perspective outside of the event and influence the world with it. So that's why the live events industry, I feel, is so important. It's so special in many ways, because really it represents an opportunity, a platform by which people can go out and change the world and get new perspectives. That's why they're there. They're there to learn about new ways of viewing the world.
Okay, well, I'm so happy that I've talked to you, because you are behind so many great names, as mentioned, in this AI domain. So hopefully we will be able to reach out through you to those people, and ask them to share their knowledge on what's happening. And
Yeah, thank you so much, Fritz. And you're doing some pretty incredible stuff yourself too. So yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Matthew, thanks for your time, and we will make certain that people will find you. If they now are curious, who are these people, we'll make sure that we will able to find them there.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.